6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
Like, what a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. I am Chris at Lightforce, joined virtually by the most wonderful person this side of town, Anna Forsyth at E4603. How you doing, Anna? Aside from the fact that our listeners obviously can't see you continuing to look up to what I presume is your ceiling.
Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks. Sorry to be distracting, but it really sounded like my landlord's kid just fell over, so I was just a bit worried.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully
he's okay.
There's no roofing project going on in your
no,
domicile,
there is construction going on opposite, but not right now because it is the evening. They have gone home, thank God.
Yeah, because the roofing project going on in our condo right now, I'm on the third floor of a 4-story building, but when they drop whatever the heck it is they drop on the roof, I can hear it. And sometimes it actually sounds like, did someone just fall? Like, should I go check to make sure they didn't fall off the roof? Like, do they need assistance? Like, it's surreal.
Yeah.
But
that's a bit sketch.
You know, when it first started, Baby Force was looking up, like, what was that? Because it was loud. Kat, a little bit beside herself. But now it's like, it happens. They don't bat an eye. They're both very concerned about the house finch or house finch couple that's setting up shop in our strawberry basket. They have like a hanging basket of strawberries, and it looks like they might be nesting in there.
Are they eating the strawberries?
I don't know. Like there's only one strawberry because it's early. But the problem is like if they do nest in this basket, it introduces the complexity of how do I appropriately water them so that the strawberries themselves continue. 2, will my cat lose her mind? Because the male has great bird song, noisy AF. Mm-hmm. And then my daughter, Baby Force, she's not entirely pleased with this. Like, she likes the idea that there might be baby birds, which they're called chicks. And
Smart.
In contrast, she's concerned they'll eat her strawberries. So it's like, I like the chicks, but I like my strawberries too. This is a problem. I live in eternal conflict.
See, I'm worried that Kitty Force might eat the birds.
Well, we generally, manage that. Like, she does get to go out in the balcony from time to time, but not unless we're out there. And in our experience, birds generally don't come out when we're out there. But when a bird comes by, like there's a hummingbird that we say is her friend. I think the hummingbird does know there is a cat in our house that can't get it and comes down and terrorizes our cat. Like, it gets down to like eye level to our cat. Bzz, Twilight's like squeaking away. Like, let me out, let me out, let me out.
That's quite funny.
Oh man. Speaking of other internal conflicts, the Vancouver Canucks are currently doing stuff in Ottawa.
I guess they're playing hockey.
I mean, to put into perspective, which we'll get into in the show, the game that we watched this afternoon, and I use the term watched loosely, was sort of half watched because we were arguing whether or not pulp in juice is okay. I still don't know if there's actually definitive direction here, but...
No, I don't think we got an answer, but yeah, that's what we're mainly doing instead of watching that team.
Yeah, but the point being is the Vancouver Canucks did not put up a good effort against Ottawa in Ottawa. However, since our last show, only a few days ago, they did get themselves a decent enough effort before they went on the road. So in theory, they are still in the quote-unquote potential thick of things. So we'll get into that and what that might mean for the team moving forward. We'll talk a little bit about the games they're going to be playing, because now they're going to be playing a lot. as they catch up on the obviously COVID-induced break. We'll talk a little bit about some of the players we're starting to see. And I'm not going to sing the song, but the F word's all about the music. Take ourselves a short break. Listen to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com and the Full Press Coverage Network. So let's talk a little bit about the two games that we've seen since our last episode, which came to you, Friday last week. This is a very rare Friday episode. And so this one will be a little bit shorter just because there's only so much we can talk about. The Vancouver Canucks were able to go and put up a dub against the lowly Ottawa Senators, which was nice because the Thursday game, they did not put up a dub. In fact, they put up a stinking L.
Yeah, they got blanked.
The thing about the win, though, against the Senators is that throughout the game, the Vancouver Canucks appeared to understand who they were playing and that they knew they should win. They didn't make it easy for themselves, obviously, but I was never worried that the Canucks weren't going to necessarily find a way to get those points. It was just a matter of time. It also helped the Vancouver Canucks that the Senators were this close to having Artem Anisimov in net.
Yep. Wouldn't have that been fun, though? Player goalies.
Yeah. And so if for some reason you missed this, who was it that was scheduled to start? Was it Hoberg? Okay. Murray ended up starting.
Hoberg was no, because Hoberg's not injured.
No. Okay. Was it Anderson?
Okay. I mean, we
should
check this beforehand, but. Yeah, the starter got injured in warm-up, so they had to pull in the taxi squad goalie as a backup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves you with no goalies spare. So when Matt Murray got injured, Hoberg was called into the game. What if he gets injured? That's when you get a player goalie.
The E-Bug. It's interesting how much play the E-Bug gets these days.
Yeah, I mean, just that fairy tale story of David Ayres, we're never going to forget it, especially in Vancouver, Toronto getting beaten by their own Zamboni driver on the day Canucks also stuffed the Bruins, one magical time. Of course, COVID does not allow for such fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
No more Zamboni drivers. There is no, extra goalie in the building. And so it's up to one of your players or coaches to go in.
Well, so there is, if you don't have injury as a problem, there is an extra goaltender in the building.
Sure, there is.
Unfortunately, in this scenario, that one had already suited up. And then that one got into the net. The E-Bug, though, it would have been Artem Simov. I'm curious, the Vancouver Canucks are potentially getting into an area of uncharted water. We'll talk about that in a short moment. But the fact remains that Demko, who didn't look too hot Thursday night, has picked up a knock. And as a result, Holtby is in net. And Holtby is just sort of deciding that he's a really good goaltender again.
Yeah, that's convenient, isn't it?
I should, apologize. I'm not trying to suggest Holtby isn't a good goaltender, but he's finding his game. That's good for him and arguably good for the Vancouver Canucks.
I mean, yeah, you can't argue that he hasn't looked the better of the two, because it does seem like Demko got injured this morning, right, at morning skate, so Demko wasn't quite 100% after COVID, so fair play on that regard, but yeah, Canucks defense, it turns out, is still Canucks defense, so Braden Holtby's had to stand up, and he really has. Kind of seeing that more dominant performance that maybe he hadn't quite got to in the last season or so. But yeah, he's obviously faced a ton of shots in Washington, a ton of shots in Vancouver, and yeah, seems to be up to speed.
He gets the 4-2 victory on Saturday here in Vancouver. And while he unfortunately takes the loss in Canada this evening, the Vancouver Canucks losing 2-1, the Vancouver Canucks were in that game because Holtby decided he was going to keep them in it. And I don't know if it's the fact that this is a team that's still tired, that's now on the road and sort of still trying to find its legs, but it wasn't good hockey.
No. I would argue that the games against Toronto, like we had, might not have been like 120 minutes or 123 minutes, however long, of good hockey, but there was definitely some great patches in there, but I don't think any of the games against Ottawa have been good hockey at all.
No, I mean, in fairness, it's the equation of who's playing who. Also, Philip Gustafsson, that was the goaltender that was scheduled to start, got hurt. Murray goes
I
in,
thought it was
gets hurt.
Forsberg.
Was it Forsberg?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm trying to find out whether, like, how injured he is, and I don't have any news on that.
All I know is the Senators were going through goaltenders here in Vancouver quick, and Vancouver is now unfortunately going through goaltenders on the road. But the backup for the Vancouver Canucks against the Sens tonight was what we think is Silovs, but considering the Vancouver Canucks put on the back of his jersey Silvos, and then proceeded to go and tweet out a graphic for the game day roster that had the same spelling mistake. I'm beginning to question things. Do the Canucks know something that we don't? Like, has everyone just misspelled his name all along?
I want to say that covering their backs, but I don't even think it was that intentional. I think it was just a few mistakes. On
IOTA, our pre-show, and this week's pre-show was open to everyone, so if you missed it, check it out on your YouTube channel. There were actually in the game day sort of graphic 2 typos. Silvos, which is the one that they're owning because it's on the back of his jersey. But then Jace Howerlick had his last name misspelled. So 2 typos, 1 graphic.
Yeah. Howerlick can't catch a break, eh?
No.
That's rough for him. Yeah. I mean, especially on the screen, typos happen, but you just want to be a bit more careful about people's names. Like, they're so key to people's identities. And like Silovs, that's his first time getting on the ice, like for warm-ups and
congratulations, we spelled it wrong. The NHL game summary has it as Silovs too, so I trust that we've all had it right all along. But Vancouver Canucks were giving me a moment of crisis, because like how many times can you misspell that before people start wondering? Looking back to the game we saw though, I mean the fight that Jake got into was a solid knuckle thrower.
I mean, all the fights that they've had, I think 3. It's like
1 in each game.
1 in each first period. And they've just been so, like, even as fights go, sometimes fights can be really kind of pathetic, and they kind of were, weren't they? Like,
I don't. So, I mean, we've talked about this on previous shows, and we'll get into it again, and we'll definitely have a much broader conversation. But like the game on Saturday, was it Harlock that was in that fight?
Yeah.
And it was like
his first career fight, maybe.
Was it Brandstrom or was it?
Yeah, it was Brandstrom. Yeah,
Brandstrom. Like, okay, where'd this one come from? They, must have been upset at each other. Okay, cool. Tonight, something like it feels to me like, why is it happening?
Yeah,
is it just like I'm trying to do something? Like
you literally saw like how it came out, but like yeah.
Well, yeah, and then he got the instigator because heaven forbid the NHL were to apply the instigator
consistently. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least there was like a narrative to that one. Yeah.
True that.
The rest were just kind of lame, in my opinion. It just feels like it's not like when Canucks play the Leafs, there's some kind of like ill feeling there. And it has happened a bit at games against Ottawa because we are playing them so much, but I didn't like none of the games have felt like high blood at all.
True. Well, it's the natural animosity that might exist, and that doesn't seem to be the case, to your point, with the Senators of all teams. That being said, the Vancouver Canucks did take that L, which means if they are wishing to maintain the possibility of making the postseason in this condensed season, they have a mountain to climb. Now, it is not an insurmountable climb because as we're recording, the Vancouver Canucks are 10 points out of fourth, that final playoff position that Montreal currently occupies, with 5 games in hand, which means the Vancouver Canucks still have destiny in their own control. And, but like, we talked about this in IOTA. So long as the Vancouver Canucks can manufacture those games in hand as wins, it's hard to suggest they're out of things. The moment that they then have that gap where destiny is no longer in their control, I'd be much less confident. I'm not confident the Vancouver Canucks are making the playoffs. That should not be a surprise to anyone that listens to our show. But I'm looking at the fact that they kind of have a chance. The Canadians, they beat the Flames tonight, courtesy of a player you might have heard of, Tyler Toffoli. And
who dat?
Have, kind of turn things around. Calgary, unfortunately, probably in a much tougher spot, having lost to the Canadians, the team that they're also chasing. But it's just hard to see how the Canucks make this happen.
By all reports, it didn't seem like those two were in a fight to secure a spot in the playoffs either. I think both games were pretty lackluster. True.
So looking ahead at the Vancouver Canucks schedule, so they've got a night off. They return to action in Ottawa on Wednesday for a real great puck drop, 2:30 Pacific.
That's crazy.
Okay. In fairness, that's a TV time. Why? Not because anyone wants to actually watch the Senators and the Canucks play on TV. It's that there's actually a Maple Leafs Montreal Canadiens game that's nationally televised on Sportsnet as the Eastern time slot. So when they went and redid the schedule, we have two Canadian teams playing in a midweek early afternoon. So 2:30 p.m. puck drop. The Canucks then go directly to Toronto to play the following day at 4:30 in the afternoon, Pacific, and then proceed to play another game on Saturday, again in Toronto, 4 p.m. puck drop, only to then race home to take on the Oilers for a couple of games. And we'll talk more about those games next week, obviously.
But yeah, it's from here on out, it's, buckle your seatbelts. It's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Thick and
like
fast.
If we look at, so there's the game on Wednesday against the Senators. The Vancouver Canucks are facing teams that are essentially playoff teams. There's no way Toronto, Edmonton, and Winnipeg, I missed the playoffs at this point. And that's who they play. They play Toronto, 4 against Edmonton, 2 against Winnipeg. On the 13th of May, they get to play the Calgary Flames. But by that point, either the Canucks are in the hunt or they're not.
Right. And we thought facing the Leafs twice after all this, while recovering from COVID, would be the problem. But it seems like adrenaline kind of took care of that. And
the Senators win the 2 L's against Ottawa.
Yeah. I'm not saying you blew your chance completely, but you kind of did. Those were your 4 opportunities to get ahead while not expending all your energy.
The one sort of saving grace that the Canucks have again is those games in hand against the Montreal Canadiens, who, as we've sort of already said many, many times, is the team that they're chasing. And we're actually going to see by sort of next week a couple of those games get cashed in. So we should have by our next show a really good indication as to whether or not the Vancouver Canucks have a hope of making the playoffs. Where this could become real sketch, if you're, let's say, a Habs fan, the Habs season is over on the 13th of May. The Vancouver Canucks then play 4 games. Mm-hmm. So it could come down to Montreal watching TV to know whether or not they make the playoffs. If the Canucks can actually string together a number of wins, put a solid run into motion, Holtby standing on his head, or Demko if he returns healthy. He's got a lower body injury and is out for a bit.
Yeah. And I would say Habs fans, put it in your diaries, but there are no start times for any of those games. So wait and see.
Well, I bet you, I won't guarantee you, but I bet you the reason there's no start times for those games is because the NHL's like, will they matter?
Yeah, if they don't matter, just put them on at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, even when they're at home.
Yeah. So anyhow, well, again, we'll know more. But if there is one thing we know that Habs will be doing, is they'll be at least taking that opportunity to continue practice, reinforce their skills for the postseason. And just like all the greatest hockey players who never quit practicing the skills to improve the game, neither should you. The ICBA trains thousands of workers every year on everything from Excel spreadsheets to excavating trenches, from personal leadership skills to construction estimating, from fall protection to effective management skills, and 500 other courses. Online, on demand, webinars, and even COVID safe in person, ICBA has an option for you and your busy lifestyle. Start climbing the corporate depth chart by sharpening your skills today. Check out icba.ca/courses.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
Having been probably completely empty over the course of Rewind, and this being half full, half empty, why don't we go with half full and point out the fact that Juolevi got himself a goal, his second of his NHL career, also his second goal against the Ottawa Senators. Maybe there's something there. But it's good to see him finally getting into the lineup, considering, the cap sitch.
Yeah. Honestly, we've waited so long because of injuries and various other kind of issues that to see what we properly have in Juolevi, and it's nice to see him get a bit of a run, and I hope that continues because it seems like obviously he's not what we thought when we drafted him, but we know that, we knew that 2 years ago, that he was never going to be that. But
the thing. But him getting into action, definitely good to see. But we have to consider the Vancouver Canucks this season, still sort of in the hunt. Last season, we're in the hunt until the season went pause. The season prior to that, they were technically in the hunt till late. I kind of wonder if this in the hunt scenario actually prevents someone like Travis Green from potentially introducing players into the lineup to check them out in game shape because of the possibility that it is, quote unquote, throwing the opportunity away for the team to win. And this season of all seasons, Travis doesn't have a job next year lined up. So
yeah, and I do get that. He's in an unenviable, that was hard to say, position, where he's playing for a job /raise right now. And you would kind of understand him wanting to be conservative, but I think as we've seen today, Juolevi's way improved in his defensive play. He's not getting turnstiled in the neutral zone like he was last year. Mm-hmm. He looks confident, and sometimes occasionally he scores. So I genuinely think getting Juolevi in the lineup and a few others maybe in the lineup, Kole Lind, might actually not only show us what we have in those players, but give Canucks a better chance of winning.
You should get that cough checked out.
Yeah, in today's age.
So Juolevi was paired with Tyler Myers, which is unfortunate. But he did get his way, find his way into the lineup. Looking at who the Canucks are dressing on their blue line, how does Lind get an opportunity short of injury?
Yeah, I actually don't think he will. But I think that's unfortunate. Look at our bottom six. It's just the biggest Jags in the business.
You're talking about Tyler Myers is big and you're calling him a Jag?
I wasn't actually referring to Tyler Myers here. I'm talking about, our forwards here. But,
Oh, okay.
Tyler Myers is both big and a Jag, but not really because he's paid $6 million a year.
Sure. No, I know.
But they can't even spell one of our forwards' names. No disrespect to Jace Howell, but could be anyone.
I get called a hater because obviously I say things like, what if the Vancouver Canucks were in the position the Ottawa Senators were in right now? Might things be different? Might we be seeing some of the younger players get an opportunity in whether it's for us as fans to understand what they might be able to do, help us as fans sort of benchmark our own opinions of these players, but then too, allowing sort of management to see these players in game situations and whether or not they fit into the future. To Jim's point of this team being competitive in 2 years' time, I would imagine you want to then use this year and next year to figure out what it is you have so that in 2 years' time, when you are actually competitive, because of this pandemic, the flat cap, things that, Jim could not have foreseen with all the great contracts he's signed. Again, it could be that, I'm thinking too far ahead of myself, right? Like next season or the season before. Because as we know, thinking about next week is equally tough.
Yeah. Day to day. The magic phrase. But just if you're looking at our lineup tonight, Jimmy Vesey is playing in our second line. I know Batch just writes them down in any orders, as he's told us before, but that's our top six, whatever, whichever way you look at it. And he's actually done fine, too good, I would say, but he's not top six material.
Well, okay, so to use VC as an example, VC was on the second line. Yes, whether it's the order they show up, there's no way Miller, Besser were not the second line, because if they weren't the second line, that means Boyd, Virtanen, Sutter, Howrlich were ahead of them, and that's not the case. So VC was a second line forward tonight. I like VC. VC's a phenomenal role player. He's paid the right amount of money for the Jag that you'd want out of him. And the problem is the Vancouver Canucks, in almost every season that I can think back now, whether it be due to injury or simply the player personnel that management provides Travis Green, puts them in this position where players are asked to elevate their own game and fill in roles they weren't really ever meant to fill long-term. Jay and I were actually chatting about this. We were watching the game in C4 Discord this weekend, and we were talking about Alex Biega. And I said, I loved Alex Biega. All the time in the world for Alex Biega. He was priced right. He laid it all on the line. He was the player that you brought in as your seven defenseman. He played up front due to injury on the fourth line. He was the consummate sort of pro blue-collar player. That's everything you want out of Alex Biega. Do you want Alex Biega to be on your second defensive pairing? Do you want Alex Biega to find his way on the third line of the up front? No! You don't. That's not good.
Yeah. I mean, we know the Leafs are deep, right? But, this is a waiver wire, pickup. We had Josh Levo, for example, who, not a waiver wire, but traded in exchange for peanuts, with apologies to Michael Sarcone. Is that even his first name? I'm sorry.
Carcone?
Yeah. Is it Michael?
I don't remember.
Anyway, apologies, but pretty much peanuts, bag of pucks. And turned out to be great value. Could have been a long-term second line producer, but we never found out due to injury and Jim not saying.
Well, I'm not sold on the second line part.
Sure, but I would say like just because he fit well with Bo, like he was good in a small time period. But even if he turned out to be that way, like that's definitely the exception rather than the rule. Like waiver wire pickups don't turn into like second line stars. Like they just don't.
Yeah. The struggle with the Vancouver Canucks right now, okay, and there are injuries, so let's cut them some slack. We're seeing players have to move up in the lineup. You got VC who's playing on your second line. You have Sutter, Howrlich, and Mott, who I'll give Sutter third line material. Mott, okay, sure, I'll put him on the third line. Howrlich, I'm not entirely sure. But then your fourth line is Jake Boyd and Highmore. Like you're right. How many of these third, fourth line players do you have from your second line down? Right? Yeah,
like that could be your third line, maybe, if your fourth line wasn't your fourth line. You know, if your fourth line was this shut down, like effective line, then I'd be not fine with that third line, but like more comfortable. But do you trust that fourth line to be that? I don't.
No, it's not. If your fourth line was a high energy minute muncher, that's perfect, right? Where you no big reward, but super low risk. In fact, you could almost look at some of the more successful teams in this league and probably look at that fourth line and say, man, I bet you that fourth line would be a second line here in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's like cup contenders have depth all the way down, but like Canucks don't even have like, that minute munching shutdown like material.
Damn you, Mike Gillis, 7 years ago for leaving the cupboard so bare.
Yeah.
Because, in 7 years, you just, you can't fill a cupboard.
Apparently.
I'm sorry. I'm just getting all fired up. Let's just quickly take a note because we sort of got into it in Rewind. Playoffs. Yeah?
Nah.
Sorry,
I did write the rundown in like London slang. Playoffs, nah, bruv.
See, okay. I am not team playoffs. I don't see this scenario where the Vancouver Canucks can make the playoffs. Call me a negative Nelly, but yet if I commit to this, I kind of feel like knowing that the team listens to C4, they'll prove us wrong.
Sure, there we go. We're doing Canucks favor, like print out C4 quotes, put them on the dressing room wall.
Yeah, C4 is bulletin board material. I don't know how it's possible. And again, I look at this window. If Jim is truly being honest with himself and us, a team that will be competitive in 2 years can afford to miss the playoffs, can afford to look to develop their team a little bit, can afford to figure things out. I mean, I'm not suggesting the Vancouver Canucks can actually do that or that management group has the wherewithal to figure themselves out of the hole they've continued to dig themselves in. But
yeah, I mean, one, I might be thinking differently if they looked utterly dominant against the Senators as they have done in the past. Maybe
they have not. That 2:30 start looking if they come out 2:30 and knock the Sox out of the Sens, so you're like, oh man, they've turned a corner.
No,
because it's their goaltending. It's again, this is the thing about this Vancouver Canucks team. Goaltending is what helps them do the unimaginable.
We won't get anywhere if Demko turns out to be properly injured.
Yeah,
that's putting the playoff bus in reverse.
If Holtby continues to play as he has been
every game, back to
Hey,
backs.
he once did this, right? When the Washington Capitals were playing, Mario Kart,
Yeah.
because Nate Schmidt found an N64 at like a pawn shop or something like that.
Of course he did.
We never really actually talked about this, but on Donnie and Dolly, they were making comments about Gaudette's video game playing. And I think it was Donnie that said that Adam needs to focus on being an NHL pro and less being a video game streamer. And when I heard this, it's like, oh, cool, old man talking about video games. Like, it's not video games. If it's, I'm not focusing on playing as an NHL professional, doesn't matter what you're doing. It could be hot yoga. If that's where your focus is, that's a problem if it's taking away from your NHL career, right? But it almost discounts the fact that a team like the Washington Capitals, who won a Stanley Cup, were playing Mario Kart between games. Like, it got to the point where they were having like team tournaments during the playoffs because they were just having, a bonding good time, whatever. And it was Nate Schmidt who found the actual console that they were playing on.
I mean, to me, I definitely don't put that much stock in that take. I think there'll always be players that are distracted by things outside the rink, but I really think that's just going to be, a singular player. Like, it's not to do with video games or anything. Like, most, I would say 99% of hockey professionals can tune out everything once they get to the rink. And bonding is good. Team bonding is good. Embracing the future is good. Especially in COVID times where you're encouraging them to stay inside.
Yeah. Stay inside. Read books on hockey.
Yeah.
Read all the different, autobiographies, or I don't know what Wayne Gretzky's was called.
Hockey players have terrible taste in books, so I'm fine with them playing video games. Whatever floats your boat. We got off track slightly.
Yeah, that's what happens with C4.
But the long and short of it is, playoffs, no.
Okay, you've heard it here first. Throw it on the list. Anna's finally saying playoffs are not a possibility. She's never said this ever this season.
Exactly.
Yeah. We'll take a short break. You're listening to C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com on the Full Press Coverage Network.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
Since our last show, which wasn't that long ago, the scuttlebutt came out that the Vancouver Canucks were going to go and turn themselves into a budget operation, and that Travis Green would probably not come back because the team couldn't afford to pay him. Now, it's since sort of been refuted. I think it was Pierre LeBrun had shared that, no, the team's probably going to go and try to bring Travis Green back. However, the question is whether or not he will get the raise he is entitled to. And whether you like Travis Green or not, as a Vancouver Canucks fan, it's hard to argue against that fact that Green has taken a whole lot of chicken shiznit and continued to hand out passable chicken salads. Sure, these chicken salads aren't, getting people to line up at the door and book a ton of reservations, but it's kept the lights on in the kitchen. So in the words that you wrote down in the rundown, bitch better have my money.
If Travis doesn't turn up and say that to Jim, what is he doing? Because really, we talked about what Canucks can afford to do. Can they afford to miss the playoffs? Probably. Can they afford to let Travis Green go? No way. Not if they want to be competitive in 2 years' time. You're starting at, kind of less than square one, I think, if you let Travis Green go, because you don't know where he's going to go, and, you don't know who you're going to be playing against next year, who's going to be in your division, but he could be lining up against you, and you don't want that.
The thing that sort of stands out, and it goes back to the interview that we had with Tom Nyanek a few weeks back. And I never really clued in when he had mentioned at the time, but we were talking about sort of the business side of teams and how he had suggested operationally hockey teams are looking for ways to count those pennies a little bit more precisely outside of hockey. So you have your on-ice product, which has a salary cap, but everything outside, that's where you can go and save a few bucks here and there. And the reason when I heard that, I was thinking like the people not in hockey operations. Right. I thought it was more like, the team operations, marketing, all that jazz. But now sort of rethinking about what Tom had said, you can save a few bucks if you don't pay the next coach that you have a whole lot of money, or maybe start adding the roles that would normally have their own person, like a goaltending coach to an assistant coach. I mean, back in the day, goaltending coaches, and I'm talking way back, weren't a thing. Right. I mean, some goaltenders had them, but that was the goaltender who had them, not the team that provided them. So you have Ian Clark without a deal. You got Travis Green, who still has no deal.
But if you don't have Travis Green and if you don't have Ian Clark, like, how'd you get people to sign here? Like, how'd you get free agents to come to Vancouver?
Like the Canucks could afford free agents.
Well, yeah. But,
there will always be players that will sign.
Yeah, they will always be, but, like, the quality you're getting for the price? I mean, what were they saying to Tyler Myers? I guess they were saying, we'll pay you $6 million a year, but... and they took him out to a steak restaurant. Done. Like, how would you sell this team if you don't have good coaching? Because they're not competitive. It's less important if they're winning.
I genuinely wonder, it's not so much how you sell the team to future free agents or future players. It's how do you sell the team to the paying customer, the fans, the season ticket holders.
Yeah. Because we're going to come back at some stage. We're going to be able to come back, but with Canucks, like, ticket prices as they are, and they're not going to get cheaper after a pandemic, I'd imagine. Like, how do you, like, persuade people to keep coming back when the quality of the on-ice product is so poor? Like, but it's not just like, oh, Canucks will get worse if Travis Green leaves. It's more the fact that the optics of the team, it's just like, okay, they're not investing in their team, so why should we care? Mm-hmm.
So we'll see a letter from Francesco.
Yeah.
Talking about disappointment, but the bright future. He'll list a few names: Bo Horvat, Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson. We might see a Myers dropped in there for good measure, maybe a Thatcher Demko.
What about Breezebois?
Sorry, Breeze, you just ain't making the Francesco cut. The point being is that if the Vancouver Canucks go and put together a budget product and budget operation, what is the data telling them as to whether or not fans will buy into this? Like, I think there is the possibility that they create a situation that, as you had pointed out, the tickets are priced in such a way that people won't buy them. Like, I was having a conversation with a couple of people on social media. Again, Bannergate sort of strung this together. And a couple of them suggested that if you don't like the Canucks, don't watch, don't go to games. I'll take the season tickets off your hands. I genuinely wonder, are these people saying this because they actually think they can't get season tickets? Because I can assure you, if you want Canucks season tickets, give them a call. They'd be happy to sell you one or two or how many ever you want. There is no wait list. It is not a tough ticket to get. Like the wait list that once was there, gone. In fact, that wait list disappeared after they missed the playoffs once.
I mean,
that actually, I think, speaks highly about how Canucks fans viewed the future of this organization in that period of time.
Yeah, it's like Tom Wernick said, you have to sell tickets to Vancouver fans. Like, in Toronto, they'll just buy them. Like, no matter what's on the ice. But, yeah, I mean, how do you get fans to invest in them? How do you get, like, let's not forget we're seeing our two best players come off ELC and they have to be negotiated down. I mean, why would they?
Worst case scenario is that one of them doesn't come back.
Right?
Like that's
a real possibility.
You know how far, like, okay, if one of them were not to come back, it's a real possibility. I won't say it's a good one, but it's a possibility. But if, like, let's say Petey gets an offer sheet.
And I actually, like, as much as I'm scared of that, I do love offer sheets and wish they happen more often.
Sure. But let's say this happens. Now, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you might sort of say, okay, because we're going to be competitive in a couple of years. This is almost the free reset button. We're going to get some first round draft picks. Depends on the team, however. But again, like, you could sort of say, we could maybe weaponize this, or we could take those picks we have and we could trade them for other things. Like, I think there's some flexibility that gets introduced. It doesn't make the Canucks a good team.
No.
Right? But how do you go and sell that?
Yeah, we
became worse today.
We let our best player, most exciting player, walk because we couldn't afford to keep him.
Yeah. Like, I think back to, like, Pavel Bure. So Pavel Bure, entirely different situation. He wants out of Vancouver. He wants a trade. And Brian Burke ultimately is able to facilitate a deal, which may not have gotten the best return for Bure, obviously, from a position of negotiating strength. Brian didn't have a whole lot because it was quite clear the player didn't want to be here in Vancouver. But Brian understood that by getting rid of the, exciting player that was selling hockey in some dark times, we needed to string things together to make this team one that people want to rally behind. And he was able to do that. I don't see Trader Jim having that wherewithal.
No.
And, like, I'm sorry. We're getting off the sort of rails here when we're talking about Travis Green, but it sort of ties in together. Like, this team, if they become a budget operation, which is fair, maybe they have to, maybe the money just isn't there. I mean, the Aquilinis have a diverse number of, businesses in their portfolio, but many of them have been hit hard. So maybe they just need to tighten that belt a little bit more. If they don't lower ticket prices, there's going to be a ton of empty seats. They price themselves in the market. Now, again, this sort of goes back to that point where if you seriously don't think you can get season tickets, you can. You just might not want to pay the amount of money you have to pay to get them. Mm-hmm. They're not cheap. And those empty seats speak loud.
Especially when they're the ugly red color that they are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole different F word.
Yeah. Oh. I just think Canucks are just like, they've already hogtied themselves with the various contracts, but don't shoot yourself in the foot as well.
It is surreal. Here we are, essentially 3 weeks away from the end of the season. If it wasn't for COVID, 2 weeks away from the end of the season. And your head coach does not have a deal for next year. And if you might suggest, Chris, it's not a panic. You can go and do a deal with him in the off season. He'll come back. Okay, you sure he's going to actually sign? Because you've just sort of told him you're not confident in him. Does he want to be like, it's introducing some big question marks. Now, maybe they are negotiating and Travis wants to get paid.
Yeah.
He knows what his worth is and Canucks haven't offered it to him.
Which is fair.
Again, that goes to the point that he's going to go and look at the market. Do you think, I'm going to ask you this, if Travis makes it to the market, do you think there's a team that's going to go and say, hey, Trav, we'd like you to come coach our team. Here's a deal. He'd have to entertain it, no?
Yeah, completely. I think he cares a lot about Canucks. Like, they invested in his career, like, brought him up from Utica, like, really trusted him. But, that only goes so far. Like, Troy Stecher was, like, willing to go so far, but he still wants a job next year. Like, yeah. And Travis does too. And let's not forget, his family aren't here. They're down in California. And
I didn't know that.
How do I know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay.
You know everything. I don't doubt that.
And yeah, like, it's not showing a great deal of respect to him to just be going down to the wire and pinching so many pennies. I really hate truisms, but you do have to spend money to make money. and invest in your assets. Travis Green is one of them.
Well, and I think the family would tell you we are spending money. Look at our roster. The cap is this much, and here's where we are.
Yeah, but
anyhow, is what it is. Who knows? Maybe we'll come back next week and Travis Green will have a 5-year contract.
Yeah, lock him down.
Oh man, if that was actually the case. Even, this
give
is the other...
Give him that Thatcher Demko money.
God, yeah. The crazy thing here, if Travis gets an extension, I'm going to imagine it'll be at least 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You have a coach who now has a longer deal than your general manager, who's already pretty long in tooth. So how palatable is it for ownership to possibly be put into a scenario where they choose to make some changes and the coaches they just re-upped cost them? Like there's argument that they haven't done anything with Jim because it costs them money.
Yeah.
Now they're going to have coach. Like it's such a surreal situation.
It is, but talking about getting fans back into the stands, re-upping Travis and firing Jim will cost money for sure. But what message does that send to the fans? A much more positive one, I would say.
Well, to a subsection of fans, I think it actually reinvigorates them. But the counter to that is there are going to be some fans who they'll check out. It's an equation that the bean counters and insight analysts in the Canucks organization need to factor in.
Well, you're never going to make everyone happy, and they don't have a market research team anymore, so they're not going to find out that way. But also, some market research firm thought that 80% of people in the UK would be behind the Super League, so don't necessarily trust those numbers. But you've just got to make the smartest...
80% of the people were. It's just they asked 1%.
Right. You just need to make a smart business choice. Not try and make people happy, that's for sure. But... Yeah.
Yeah, no, that survey is probably, do you like the word super? Do you like the word league?
Does that sound like
80%?
a good thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the Super League? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's an OTR episode we'll have to get into. But here we are at the end of a longer episode than I had imagined. I presume because we had talked on Friday or sort of late last week, we would have a shorter episode here. But you and I, we just like the sound of our voices, and we go on and on and on, just like that Halcyon song.
I just got it. Wouldn't have been able to tell you who that was, but I get it. And let's not forget, we went from half an hour of iota into this, so we can talk and talk and talk. It doesn't necessarily mean we can talk and we won't go off the rails, but
I would say this hour-ish that we've spent talking with the main show has been much more on the rails than the winding road we traveled with iota in the 30 minutes.
That's for damn sure. But that's the way it's meant to be, so we actually did things the right way around.
True that. But if you have reached the end of this main show at this point, you've probably heard us ask you to do this before. Leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to our show. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the show yet, smash the subscribe button. Unless you're listening to the show on the CanucksHockeyBlog.com website or the Megaphone links, you can listen to it there as well. Obviously, that's more manual in nature, but I know there are a few of you out there that do, and we'll continue to make that available. Have you joined C4 Discord yet, Anna?
I mean, I've joined it. That's where all the juicy talk is.
Get all the juice, all the bits. And if you want to be part of the conversation, it is discord.io/C4 podcast. It's great conversation. There's lots of game chatter, the occasional argument. There are juice truthers.
Yeah, so be warned. Have your juice opinion and have your argument to back it up when you come in the door of Discord.
Yeah. So join Discord. Obviously, you can follow us on social media. We're at the C4 podcast in most places. And then beyond that, feel free to drop us a text message. Leave us a voicemail. The cool thing about dropping us a text message, leaving us a voicemail on the C4 text line is that it allows for us to include you, our listeners, on our show. So how do you do that? You just drop a text or call 604-200-6201. That's 604-200-6201. And again, we will do our best to include that on an upcoming show. So yeah, Anna, what final words of wisdom do you have for all of our listeners?
You know what I would love? If I got...
What would you love?
Voicemail singing me happy birthday.
Ooh, when is your birthday?
Thursday.
I should know this, but I don't. It's this Thursday.
This Thursday. Oh my goodness. Anna is officially old. A lady never reveals her age, but old.
You're like 21.
I wish.
Okay, 22.
Hey, I'm still getting ID'd in some places, so I'll take that.
So, well, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
But please leave Anna a happy birthday message on voicemail. And if for some reason that's long distance, you're like, oh man, I can't call it. It costs me money. Speakpipe.com/C4 podcast. You can just record directly from your computer or your phone or whatever online device. And again, Anna will appreciate any birthday comments you can share.
Yep.
Myself, final words of wisdom. Happy birthday, Anna.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'd sing it, but I'm actually unsure is happy birthday or the tune copyright or not.
Not anymore. They falsely claimed copyright on it for like 100 years. And then they had to pay back money.
Okay.
Bad people.
There's actually, I'm going to go off the rails here. There is a podcast that I listen to. I'm actually trying to look up the name here. Whoops. While we're doing this, it's, if I was prepared, but no, I'm not.
Chris.
It's called 20,000 Hertz.
Looks up podcasts.
Yeah. It's called 20,000 Hertz. And essentially it's about sound. A couple episodes ago, they played the mystery sound. And it was the Hockey Night in Canada theme. But that's the problem, is it's not called the Hockey Night in Canada theme. It's called the hockey theme.
Right.
And it's now, I think, in use by TSN, who've actually bought the rights from the woman who penned it originally for CBC, but CBC never actually bought the rights. They licensed it.
Right.
Anyhow, the moment he played the tune, I'm like, oh my goodness, I know it. So anyhow, in the latest episode, when he says, oh, last week's mystery song was this, as pretty much the entire country of Canada let me know. Mm-hmm. Anyhow.
Yeah, I feel like it would be the same in the UK with the Match of the Day theme song.
Oh, even I would know Match of the Day.
Well, that's good. I miss that song.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of Anna, A4Site03, myself, Chris at Lightforce, you can find us online at c4podcast.com. As I already shared Discord, drop Anna a happy birthday message on our text line. But guess what? We're out.